if you like. That's the work I want to do. Does anyone recognize the images or the image that you see on the screens? Right, you're laughing, so therefore you do. All right, it's a fax machine. Does anyone not have a fax machine or has not used a fax machine in the room? So it's a funny image to start off when we talk about social media to put up a fax machine. But I wonder if you know this, and many of you will, because there are a couple of people that have been around long enough to know this. But when fax machines first came out, the decision for many companies and organizations, big ones in fact, as to whether they get a fax machine or not went to the board meeting. Now, some of you will know that. Some of you will be nodding because that's exactly what happened. The board meeting dealt with the issue. It was a 5,000 rand purchase on a communication device. And there were 4 fundamental questions that they had to answer back then. 4 big questions. And they got consultants in from the finest consultancies in the world to sit at the board meeting because they had to deal with these 4 questions. The first question they asked was this: who will we fax? It was a big question back then. Once they dealt with that question, they moved on to question 2, which was, who will fax us? And then moved to question 3, what will we fax? And then question 4 was, what will they fax us? These are the big 4 questions that had to be asked and answered before companies splashed out the 5,000 rand for a fax machine. It didn't stop there though, because straight after they'd made the decision and they'd gone to purchase it, they had to have a fax machine operator. Those were critical back then. I met a woman who works for Bidvest right now, and she talked about in her earlier life, that was her full-time job. She was a fax machine operator. And there were 2 of them. They handled 5 fax machines between them, 3 incoming and 2 outgoing, but they were fax machine operators. It was a full-time job once upon a time. And of course, many fax machine operators, in fact, most fax machine operators, I've not met or found anyone different, but they were women. And I think the reason that fax machine operators were women is because in the early days of the fax machine, they had that roll of paper. And as we know, men can't do toilet rolls, so they certainly weren't going to do fax rolls. So women had a natural skill for fax machines back then. And of course, the world moved on. For those of you who have got small children today, there's a really good chance that they will never ever use a fax machine and they will never send or receive a fax in their lives. Fax machines are gone. They have been relegated to record players and other such devices that we have, video machines, etc., etc. And the reason I put the fax machine up there is because we're stuck asking the same set of questions when it comes to social media. It's back to the board meeting, in big companies and small. The directors, the owners, they're sitting down wrestling with 4 big questions again. And they are, who will we tweet? Who will Facebook us? What will we tweet? What will they put on our Facebook? The same set of questions all over again. And I can tell you what the answers are going to be. You're going to all get into social media. Because in my opinion, social media is just a modern fax machine. That's all it is. It's a communication channel. It's another way for us to connect, another way for us to communicate to our customers, to our suppliers, and even internally to our employees.